Welcome to the Rock Music Alliance interview sessions. I'm your host, Cole Coleman, along with Claudio Pesavento from Mahogany Rush and the Chris Squire Band. Today, we're talking about the Ronnie Montrose Remembered event with Keith St. John, vocalist for Montrose, and Kingdom Come, and Lynch Mob, and many more. Keith, when and where is the event being held this year?
This year, it's at the House of Blues Anaheim, which is less than a mile from the convention center. And it's our first year there. And I just want to say the room's a little bit smaller than we're used to. Not by much, but it's smaller. But the good thing is you buy individual seats now. You're not trying to buy a VIP or a general admission ticket or whatever and then get there early so you can slam up to the front. I mean, you got your seat, and that's your seat, and that's it. So a lot of our kind of VIP folks were asking if we could figure that out one of these years, and we're able to at House of Blues. So that's one of the reasons why we're over there. So it's at House of Blues Anaheim. It's Friday night, January 24th, 2025. And it's Ronnie Montrose Remembered. And doors are open at 6 p.m. We kick off at 7:30. There's really great openers that night, including one of Ronnie's best friends who was his personal best friend, as well as a longtime writing partner, C.J. Hutchins. So looking forward to all that great stuff this year.
Yeah, that's great, man. Sounds great. Yeah, it's happening the same weekend as NAMM show, right?
Yeah, basically, it's been kind of built around the NAMM show, the NAMM convention over the years. And for those people that don't know about the NAMM, N-A-M-M, it's the Music Merchants Convention, biggest convention in Southern California every year, at least since I've been living in LA. And what's happened over the years is more and more shows, a lot of time put on by Fender or Yamaha or Paul Reed Smith or Ludwig, a lot more shows into the venues near the convention center in Anaheim, and even far out, even as far as like 20, 40 miles out. I mean, people are doing NAMM convention events, and so it's a potpourri of amazing events with lots of big rock stars at them. And Ronnie Montrose Remembered is lucky enough to be one of them every year.
That's great, man. Congratulations on getting it down there, and at the House of Blues. I wanted to find out the performances you mentioned. Are they like bands that are performing at the event, or tribute bands, or is it like guest appearances?
Okay, so what I was talking about earlier was the opening acts. Our event itself is it's Ronnie Montrose Remembered. So given that to follow, it's about Ronnie's career. So Ronnie was, of course, he started the band Montrose, but he did that after he had been in the Edgar Winter group. He played on the Only Come Out at Night record, which has Frankenstein and Free Ride and all the big Edgar songs that you know. So we honor that stuff. We also honor his time in Van Morrison. That was Ronnie's first kind of big sort of rock star break. He had been a studio guy, kind of largely like Jimmy Page was in England. He was a young cat being hired to play on a lot of records, on a lot of other people's records. And Jimmy, I don't think was in a band, right, until he was in the Yardbirds. And then, don't quote me on that because I'm not exactly sure about my Zeppelin history, but the first band that wanted Ronnie was Van Morrison. Asked him to join the band, do a record, etc. And then that led to him getting connected up with a lot more folks in the industry, and got a call from Edgar Winter, joined the Edgar Winter group. And by the time he was kind of had his fill of that, he wanted to start his own band. And in the early 70s, it was a damn good time to start your own band. If you had climbed the ladder that far at that point, when there were only like, a little handful of famous bands, you were doing pretty good. So
that's
we
amazing.
honored that.
Yes, amazing
and
thing.
I also did a band after Montrose called Gamma. So we do some stuff from Gamma too for the deep Montrose and Ronnie Montrose fans.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, is it, are there going to be a lot of guest players, kind of like an all-star jam?
It's totally festival style. So I've got a crew. One guy's going to be plugging in the guitars into the amps, while other people are going to be plugging in their pedal boards, while other people will be screwing down the drums for every player that comes on and off the stage. I mean, it's kind of a machine that works like clockwork, and we get people on and off. Typically, guitar players will come up for one song and then they're off. The next guy comes up, but perhaps they'll come back later. There are guys that are playing more than one song in the night. And for drummers, we try to keep them on. If they're going to play 3 songs, we try to keep them on for their 3 songs because it's a little bit more of a crossover, switching the tom heights and moving the cymbals around and the seat and the pedals and all that. So we try to keep that down to a minimum, but there are like 6 or 7 drummers on the night, and they're all amazing cats.
Well, now can you tell us just who some of the players are going to be?
I'll give you some of them, but just so you know, you can go to my Instagram anytime. Just type my name, Keith St. John, ST space JOHN, and I'll come up pretty quick, and you can see all the plaques that have been posted up there. I have to do one today because Soren Anderson, who's a guitar player, badass guitar player. He's Glenn Hughes's guitar player.
Yeah.
He just committed to play. So
Cool.
I've got to put him up there today. You'll see him up there if you go to my Instagram or my Facebook or the Ronnie Montrose.
Yeah, we know Soren. We did a great interview with him not long ago. So yeah, we know Soren. Cool guy.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's totally amazing. Drummer wise, we have Troy Lucchetta from Tesla scheduled, Jimmy Paxson from Stevie Nicks, Jimmy DeGrasso, who was in Ozzy, Alice Cooper. He was in Montrose with me for a while. So that's another thing. A lot of the players that come have some kind of a Montrose or Gamma or some kind of connection with Ronnie or with the music.
That's cool.
Guitar player by the name of Mitch Perry. He played with Edgar Winter for like 7 to 10 years or something. And that's actually when I met him because, Edgar Winter and Ronnie Montrose, we'd all often be on, festival gigs together, and so I met Mitch doing that. So Mitch is a badass, and no one plays Frankenstein the way he does, man. So there, I gave up one song and one player. So we're looking forward to him coming down and jamming. He's been to the event before, and he's a big favorite down there. And
definitely sounds like it's going to be a great time. It's going to be a really good time.
Oh, it's just an extravaganza, man.
Now, should people just go to the House of Blues, or they got to get tickets in advance, right? You mentioned tickets, right?
Yeah, if you go to Ronnie Montrose Remembered.com, I know that's a mouthful, it'll show you an accurate layout. Well, the House of Blues website is accurate too. It's just a little harder to find and get to. But if you go to Ronnie Montrose Remembered.com, you'll just see what the packages are, where the certain levels of seats are. And then when you hit get tickets, it'll bypass all the searching in the House of Blues thing and get you right to the Ticketmaster page where you can see the same seat map and buy those. So that's the best place to go. So either go to House of Blues Anaheim and look for their events and go to January 24th and find it, or just go to RonnieMontroseRemembered.com and it'll come up right on the opening page. So, and
way to go.
Well, you can buy tickets at the box office. It would save you, if you walked up, it'll save you the Ticketmaster fee if you go up and just buy them at the box office. Although there might be an option at Ticketmaster that's a free option to get them emailed to you and you just print them out, or to your phone and you just have them on the phone. So
right. But this kind of event, I mean, you might walk up there and it could be sold out.
It could be. Yeah. It could be because it is a little bit smaller of a venue than we've been playing them at. And I, like I was saying, I did that for the purposes of having people be able to buy their own individual seats instead of huddling into a section. So there's a little less seats, so it may very well sell out.
Yeah. Did you? Is the event partnered up with any charities this year or any special causes?
Well, we do a thing each year where I wouldn't say partnered up, but we do it. We donate to Sweet Relief every year. A good portion of the proceeds go to them. And actually some of the years, more than just the proceeds went to them, because I really believe in that charity, and Ronnie did. And, it's kind of a heartfelt thing. So
do you know if Sweet Relief targeted towards a particular, section of the population?
Yeah, Sweet Relief provides funds for people in the music industry, musicians and music industry people that need help, especially in the medical area, the medical field.
There you go.
And they've been around for a long time. They've been around a good more than 20 years because I've known about them for quite a long time.
Well, that's certainly a worthy cause.
Yeah, no, they're amazing. And I love what they do. And Ronnie loved what they do. And that's part of the reason why, we were interested in Sweet Relief and had worked with them back then. So that's part of the reason I want to keep them in the family and give to something that makes sense, in Ronnie's name.
Are they based in New York?
No, they're based in Southern California.
Okay.
Cool.
So Bob Bachman is gonna be doing the master of ceremonies.
Bob Buckman's going to do what? Excuse me?
Introducing the show like last time.
Marcy Weiser is the host.
Oh, okay. Marcy Weiser. Right. Okay. The radio personality. Right.
Yeah. Radio personality, Marcy's Playground, 95.5 KLOS for many, many, many years. And, so most people in Southern California know her. She's now at a Bay Area station, which coincidentally is the heart of sort of where Montrose came out of.
Yeah.
Montrose was a Bay Area band. So a lot of people who come to this event every year do come down from the Bay Area. So it's nice that she can talk to them up there too on the radio and kind of spearhead that up there.
That's terrific. Did you ever hold one of the events up there in San Francisco?
We've done some events, but specifically the first memorial that was ever done for Ronnie right when he passed was done at the Warfield, which is a huge, I think like 2,500 seater up in San Francisco. And it was a great event. It was really, in his honor, it was a beautiful event, but it happened maybe only like a week and a half, 2 weeks max after he passed. And with that little amount of time to organize it and get everybody there, not everybody could make it, especially people who were on the road touring, musicians and whatnot. It was a great event. Sammy came out with the original Montrose guys, with Sammy, Bill Church, and Denny Carmassi, and Joe Satriani filled in on guitar. Neil Sean came down, did his thing. These are all guys that are deep, deep Bay Area guys. Right. Neil came out of Santana. And
that's okay. So was that the first one, or when was the first?
That was its own event, and
right.
It wasn't until a few years later when someone called me and asked me if I had an event I wanted to do, because there was an open, like 1,200 seat theater down near the NAMM convention. They were like, "You have anything you want to do this year?" And I was like, "In fact, I do." And I kind of wanted to get, to put something out there that would give everyone a chance who wanted to come down and honor Ronnie to play at. And it was really well attended. It was members of Aerosmith, Night Ranger, Whitesnake, Ted Nugent, Billy Idol, all these all these A-list people came down, and they still are coming down. But that first year was just bazam when I did it. So the players and the audience and the people wanted it to keep going. And that's what turned it into an annual event. At first, it was just a one-off, and just wanted to give people one more chance to get out there and pay their respects and stuff.
Very cool.
It was so electrifying at that first one.
Yeah.
Just needed to do it again. And as long as people have that attitude from year to year, and they keep calling in and emailing and going on social media, and they're loving it so much, I'll keep it going as long as I can.
Excellent, man. Excellent. So like over the years, it's kind of a general cherry picking. Over the years, tell us some of the great performers who have done the event.
Over the years. So a guy I played with for several years in his band, George Lynch, he's come down several times. Brad Gillis, who I mentioned, Night Ranger before. Night Ranger is another band, came out of the Bay. These guys were probably produced when they were teenagers by Ronnie, because he was that kind of guy. He was kind of that father figure guy around town who was always involved in everything. Let's see,
Doug.
the drummer from Night Ranger, the guy that sang Singer Christian,
Oh yeah.
Kelly Keegi, he came down and played and did some singing as well. All those Bay Area guys are so deep, they know all the Gamma stuff. So I think Kelly sang a Gamma tune and played drums on a few things. Steve Stevens has been down. Doug Aldridge has been down. Derek St. Holmes has been down. And all these guys have been down multiple times. Tracy Guns. The list goes on. Rudy Sarzo. God rest his soul, Frankie Banali. Howard Leese, guitarist from Heart, and produced all the early Heart stuff. I'm just trying to think. I don't have a list in front of me off the top of my head. We
Oh, that's great. You did just fine. I was just kind of curious.
several times. Just huge cats.
Great guys, yeah. I mean, you mentioned like Joe Satriani kind of early on, Did Steve Vai ever come down and do the event?
Steve Vai hasn't, but he talked about doing it. It just didn't work out time-wise for him.
Yeah,
a couple of times we tried to get him in.
Well, you've already had a lot of great players, so, and you got a lot more coming.
Oh yeah, tons more coming, and great players, great singers. James Kotak played drums on it. God rest his soul. Interesting thing about James Kotak is he asked me to do lots of projects with him over the years. When I first got to LA, he was calling me a lot, and then he disappeared because he got the Scorpions gig, and he was in that for 17 years. And then when he parted ways with Scorps, he asked me if I would do a new version of Kingdom Come with him, which I did. And during that, I found out that he actually played on a later, lesser, I guess, less known Montrose record, but he wrote some songs and he worked with Ronnie and had experience with him. So when he came down and did the Ronnie Montrose Remembered, it was like, hair standing up on the arms, again, for another guy that was that deep with Ronnie.
Yeah.
Totally cool. So Keith, in reading about the band Montrose, it's clear that you were instrumental in helping Ronnie put together the band, getting players.
Sure.
And so how did you first meet Ronnie Montrose? Well, tell us, how'd you first meet him?
I met him because a keyboard player that my band Burning Rain hired, which Burning Rain was myself and Doug Aldrich, and the latest version of that band features Blas Elias on drums and Brad Lang on bass. Sean McNabb has been on bass in that band. Matt Starr has been on drums in that band. And anyway, we hired a keyboard player to come in on our first record and do some session work. We had some ballads and some other stuff that needed some Hammond organ. And this amazing keyboard player around town by the name of Ed Roth, he came down and did an amazing job. And he told me, he said, "Hey, I got this guy that really needs to meet you," after he heard what we were doing. And he's looking for a new singer to do some writing with and do a new project with. I'm like, yeah, sure. A lot of people say that. And turned out to be Ronnie. And I really didn't know much about the Montrose legacy because I grew up out on the East Coast, like Eastern Long Island, actually. And, the West Coast and the whole west half of the U.S. was probably real tuned into what was going on in California. Montrose was a huge part of the West Coast rock and the people growing up out here. But the East Coast was in a different kind of vibe. If you were heavy, like an aficionado into hard rock, you probably knew all about Montrose. I had seen the record like in the head shops and in the album stores and stuff, and it looked like a cool record. And I had heard Rock Candy, but that was about it, So I was working with him. We were doing our thing. And when he brought up putting together a new Montrose lineup, I kind of didn't know what I was in for. I had no realization of how much impact he had on so many people and so many players and listeners. So when I learned the songs and we got together and we went out and started playing our first shows, the response was so insanely overwhelming. I just felt like I was in this massive tidal wave of, this band like coming back from the dead, like being raised finally after people were waiting so many years. Because I guess what happened between him and Sam back in the early days was just, it was off limits to even talk about. It was whatever it was, and it had been so many years. So it was sort of a stroke of luck, I guess, in a way, to just be in that right timing with him. And to get caught up in that tidal wave of everybody being so into it, So that's how it got started. And he was just such a magnetic dude. It was just so cool to be on stage with him, and even to have a conversation with him, because he was a young guy, a budding guy in Haight-Ashbury back in the day, and did some of those really cool mind-altering substances with all the other cool people there, and he just had a different perspective, as do I think a lot of those folks you talk to who came out of that era, and an intellect that was really really focused. I mean, the guy had so much focus, you couldn't help but just go, I need to get that together, kind of.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. Attention guitar players, the Thimble Slide allows you to slide and fret, freeing your slide finger. The Thimble Slide is a mini guitar slide designed to be worn on the tip of your finger, about halfway down your fingernail. When worn there, you can still bend your finger, and most importantly, it's allowing enough of your fingertip through so you can still press the guitar strings. The Thimble Slide is larger at the back and smaller at the front, so it follows the contour of your finger. So when you're wearing the slide, it's not loose or rattling around on your finger. This also allows your other fingertips in nice and close for playing. The sizing gap allows you to make the slide a little bit larger or a little bit smaller for a nice custom fit. While wearing a Thimble Slide, you can of course use it as a slide. But more importantly, you can still press the strings while wearing it. So you can play chords, play lines, bend notes. Really, you can still do all the things that you need to do to keep playing guitar while wearing it. You don't have to take it off. With its patented shape, you can slide and fret while wearing the Thimble Slide. Visit thimbleslide.com. That's thimbleslide.com.
Hey, this is Chris Wise. You're listening to the Rock Music Alliance.
What was it like to work with Ronnie in putting a show together, to work with him and put a show together? And you're on that path now, so you're saying he was pretty focused.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, he was real focused. The one thing I will say is I think he gave me a little bit more leeway as the singer, and he liked me to be able to take the lead on certain things. And for example, kind of put together the turns and twists in the set list, and kind of like, he's like, well, Keith, why don't you look at it and give me what you think? And maybe he'd look at it and go, well, that looks really great, but do you mind if we just put this here? There's a guitar change there or whatever, and I'd like to have these two songs together. I'm like, yeah, whatever you want to do, buddy. But so he was pretty respectful and kind, and sort of giving in an artistic sense. When we wrote together, he wasn't real bossy. He's say, well, what do you think about that? And I'd be like, well, I think we should do. And he'd be like, okay, let's try that. It was pretty easy to work with from my standpoint. I heard stories about, when he was younger and the fallings out he had with Sammy and maybe a few other singers too. So maybe in his younger years, he was just a little bit more of a buck and bronco, and was, he wanted to be, the band's called Montrose, so you guys listen to me, kind of a thing. So I think he mellowed out in his later years, and I was lucky to get to work with him in that time.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a little bit of column A and column B, you know, meaning like I'm sure he had learned a lot over the years and had mellowed out. But that just seems to go with age, you know, aging and experience. Yeah, but then it also could have had a lot to do with your personality. I mean, you guys, you know, might have been really, really like a really good match. And so he may have felt
maybe so, you know. I had all this spiritual stuff I was into, you know, all this kind of different energy work and meditation and all this stuff I was into at that time when we met, you know, and all kinds of, you know, all that left brain stuff, you know, and I think he was intrigued by some of that stuff too. And, you know, so he'd give me tons of advice, but then he would ask me about that kind of stuff. So, you know, we did have kind of a little bit of trade-off, I guess.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I think
and maybe that was part of it.
Yeah, it's pretty wise if you let your front man, if you have a front man, you know, he's got to feel it too, you know, so it's pretty wise to, you know, let the front man also kind of craft the flow of the show. And because you're the guy that's got to be fronting it and you got to be singing it. So you kind of, you know, people out there, you do have to kind of make a little leeway for your front man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe so.
He was very spiritual.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Maybe he sensed that about you, you know? It's kind of washed out, Claudio, but that's got to be Ronnie, of course.
No, that's a rifle guitar.
Oh, okay. Right.
Oh, you got the rifle guitar picture? Cool.
When we toured with him, he played a rifle guitar.
Did he just play it for Bad Motor Scooter? No. I thought he had that guitar tuned for one particular song.
I don't remember, but I remember we did that tour with him and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then he had the rifle guitar. I remember that.
Yeah. Hey, so for people listening, you know, Claudio, of course, has been a touring player. So Claudio, go ahead and tell us real quick, like what band were you in at the time that you toured with Ronnie?
The band was from Canada, Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush. And I remember Ronnie told me, two guitar players told me, because I have a solo, I play like a guitar player with a synthesizer. And he digged that. I remember that he liked it.
Was that a keytar, Claudio?
No, I have like a minimal, you know, but
okay.
But
right.
anyway, so and him and the guy from where's that band? I forgot now. Two guitar players told me, "Oh, you play the guitar now, huh?" They didn't like that too much.
Well, you have a good feel in your solos, Claudio. That's for sure. I enjoy hearing you play.
Oh, thank you, amigo.
Yeah. So, Keith, do you have any particularly fond memories or great memories of Ronnie, either performing or in day-to-day life that you can tell us about?
One of the very cool performance memories. Okay, well, let me back up. One before that. So, the very first show I played with Ronnie is when I was in the wave. I really felt like I was like in the ocean, and like a wave was lifting me up. It was like, you know, when Robert Plant was singing to the ocean, you know, it was about the crowd, the audience. And this was the moment. I think it was about maybe a 6,000, 7,000 seater or something up in Northern California, which is heavy Montrose territory. And the nice sunny day, and the tour manager comes up to me and he comes into the van and he goes, "All right, I just want you guys to know, don't worry about it. The whole front, like 5-10 rows are all colors. Colors are out like mad today." And so afterward, he's walking us, you know, with whatever security, like back around to the backstage. I'm like, "Richie, I mean, what does that mean, man? Colors." Oh, he goes, "Let me tune you into what's going on. Bikers." He goes, that's what we call them. When the Hells Angels come out, basically, that's kind of code word. You know, the colors are out. So I was like, sounds cool to me, you know, whatever. And it was so, it looked like Woodstock was happening again. It was so hippied out when I looked out into the audience. And then you had this whole biker crew, which was like, you know, just denim vests with massive patches and the tattoos and, you know, the whole deal. I felt like I was like transported in time. And I was our first song that we do is Rock the Nation. And during the guitar solo, I decided to do I taped it down so I could do it but the tape didn't work. I decided to do the whole Roger Daltrey thing. And I was doing it, and I'm doing the Roger Daltrey thing.
It went flying.
About 10 seconds into it or 5 seconds into it, the mic takes off and goes out into the audience. I kid you not, and I promise you this is true. A big biker guy caught it. He catches it. And I'm on the stage and I'm just like that. And he lobs it.
Oh no.
And he lobs it. And early enough so that I actually get back in when the verse comes back in. It's still at the end of the guitar solo. I kind of I didn't knock Ronnie over, but I had to jump into him to do the catch and then put the mic in the cable and put it on and start singing. But the two of us were right here, and I was back into, got it in me, back into the song.
Perfect timing and perfect position.
I'll never forget his face in that moment. And I'll never forget that biker's face and that whole moment, because it was, it was our first show. So I was on edge and I was amped up and ready to go, and the audience, and it was packed, and so
my story was that you hit the guy, Herb Sancho's guy on the head.
No, I don't think you got it in the head. But, yeah, right.
That was my idea. Shit.
No, he threw it back, and that was just one thing that sticks in my brain. I'll never forget that day. As I tell you guys, I can see the picture in my head.
That's a great moment. That's a great rock moment, man.
Ronnie just had this big, kind of I knew he would do it, just kind of a nod and a big laugh, okay. And he was looking up at me because I was jumping up, I kind of didn't want to land on it.
It's kind of like, hey, Ronnie, how's that for audience involvement?
Yeah, right?
You got him involved in that one, huh? Yeah, audience participation.
The second, one of the, there's so many cool moments when you work with a guy like this, but another really, really cool day was we played in the 40th anniversary of Woodstock, which they did at Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, and everybody was there. Members of all these bands were of Journey and Jefferson Airplane and everybody else were standing on the deck on the side because they wanted to see Ronnie's coming out. These people wanted to come and check it out, So, I met so many people that day, and I asked Ronnie, going back to the Who again, I asked him before the show when we were talking about the set list, I said, man, Ronnie, I'm really feeling this. Why don't we do something from the original Woodstock, man? The Who. You love Townsend. I love the fucking Who too, man. So we opened the set with My Generation, and it was just, we never covered anything. We just normally covered his songs, just did the Montrose stuff. So that was a lot of fun, and that's another thing that just sticks in my brain, the crowd's reaction to that. And I saw Neil Sean and all these other people on the side of the stage laughing and going, hey man, check that out,
You tried that again? You tried it again?
No, I let that one be. I fool me once, shame on you, right? So
right, man, right. We're coming up to the end of our time today, but there's a couple more things I wanted to mention or even ask you about. First, I wanted to mention for our younger listeners, who we've been talking about, Ronnie Montrose, is he's one of the most influential and very expressive rock guitarists, from the early rock era or even the golden era of the 70s, whatnot. You can check out his albums Open Fire and Speed of Sound. Those are two that I recommend. And he had battled clinical depression for most of his life, or actually all of his life, really. And on March 3rd, 2012, he was found dead with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. It's currently thought that his clinical depression drove him to that. So I wanted to ask you, Keith, where were you and how did you find out the news that Ronnie was gone?
Wow. I was in LA, and we had talked about some, it's interesting because we had talked about some upcoming shows, but there was a break in our playing, and I was actually about to go out and do a stint and do just a couple of fill-in gigs for Quiet Riot, because they were in between singers and they needed someone to help out with some gigs that they couldn't cancel. And a guy, well, maybe I'll just tell you his first name, a guy named Mike, who is the owner of a big club up in the Bay Area called the Avalon, which Ronnie and I had played with several times up there. He actually called super early in the morning, and my phone usually isn't on, but it was on that night, strangely. And he broke the news to me, man. It was insane. It just, it's just nothing I ever imagined happening. You never do, These things are.
It had to be just completely shock, and then that horrible gut-wrenching sinking feeling that sets in,
Completely out of the blues, man. It was hard to believe because in our last conversation, he was actually planning stuff. I mean, Ronnie, it's weird because if Ronnie, you would think, knowing Ronnie, if he was going to do that, he would have meticulously planned when and how, out, because he was that kind of guy. He was he would change the grommets around the little pots on his guitar amp, and he wanted them to be titanium instead of gold, or something. You know what I mean? Like he would change capacitors and electronic things that he had. He was that meticulous and that planned out, and it just blew me away, because if he talked to me about some future plans, his mindset to me was that, okay, everything's fine, because that's an indication that that's where his thinking is. So he didn't bullshit ever. That was one of the things about him. I mean, he was just so straight and organized with what he talked about that I was really confused when it happened. So I was like, did he have a lot of substance found inside him? Was he just way out of it? Because it didn't sound like his plan. I would have understood if he just was quiet, didn't answer my phone for a couple of weeks, and or didn't call me back, but he was calling me back. It wasn't like that. So it just really baffled me.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I always thought that he had cancer, but I guess not. I got the wrong story.
He had fought prostate cancer, but it was abated, and he was happy with the results of the treatment.
Okay.
And hadn't said that there was any sign of it coming back. So unless he hid that and never even told me about it, which could be. So, you guys who are listening, people who are listening, if you know any more than we do, please comment in the comments below. But it was interesting. I mean, anyone who was close to him knew that there was a lurking little bit of dark energy in there somewhere, but it never seemed threatening. It never seemed, he got quiet sometimes a little bit, but snap right back. That was about it.
Yeah, it's kind of a reminder that when you're talking with people, you never really quite know what they're going through just underneath the surface.
Yeah.
Just enjoy the time you got with them. But when somebody cuts you off in traffic and it pisses you off, it's like, well, maybe he's going through something.
Maybe so. Yeah. Good point.
Well,
on that note, have you ever seen the movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas?
I have. What a movie!
Starts with a little traffic incident and keeps on going, man. You never know what people have underneath their skin.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember seeing that movie for the first time in the theater and not knowing anything really quite what to expect. And as the movie went along, you started hearing people going, yeah,
Yeah, right.
that's right, yeah.
And then at the end of the
totally
movie,
related to the character.
End of the movie, the detective finally shoots him out at the end of the dock, and as he's falling down, he's like, I was the bad guy? Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I didn't expect that at the end. I didn't think the movie was going to end that way. I was looking for the, like he's going to get locked up or rehab or something,
Right. Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow, they're taking it to that place. Like, yeah. And like you say, and the way that they wrapped it all up was like, and I'm the bad guy, you know?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Keith, it's great that you're, carrying on the Ronnie Montrose legacy. That's for sure, man.
And
Thank you, man.
congratulations
It means the world to me. I mean, it does. When somebody is that lit up with positivity, I mean, and the guy was. I mean, we just talked about a little bit of a dark side, but I mean, that was really minor shadow, if anything, in 99.999% of my experience with the guy. He was a light, and he was, because he was so detail oriented with things all of his life, he just had this wealth of knowledge from all those years in the music industry and stuff. Like, he could paint you a picture and you'd go, of course, duh, because he had the solution. And I was like, God, it's almost like a second dad to like the guys in the band, So.
Yeah.
Very nice, very cool, interesting. Now, Claudio, did you have something? I thought I heard you about to speak.
No,
I think that was just gas.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that really does bring us to the end of it, and it's great to hear all about it, Keith. Yeah, that's for sure, And if you would...
Cool, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, if you would, just to wrap it up, tell us once again when and where the Ronnie Montrose Remembered event is happening, and tell us the website to go to for tickets.
Okay, Ronnie Montrose Remembered takes place on January 24th, 2025. That's a Friday at the House of Blues, Anaheim. Showtime for Ronnie Montrose Remembered is 7:30, but the doors open at 6. There's some amazing openers as well. To get tickets, I advise go to RonnieMontroseRemembered.com. I know that's a mouthful. Ronnie Montrose Remembered. Say it as slow as I am. RonnieMontroseRemembered.com. And the first opening page that comes up, just scroll to the bottom and it shows you the seating map. So you can see exactly what's going on with what seats line up with what packages you get. A lot of them come with T-shirts and guitar picks and signed posters and meet and greets and all that sort of VIP goodie stuff. And then from that page, click Get Tickets, and it'll bypass all the other things you have to go through and take you right to Ticketmaster's, ticket page where you're actually with the seat map there. But you'll already know what you're looking at if you look at the website first like that. So that's what I would say. Additionally, if you want to, you could just go to House of Blues Anaheim, go to their website, look up the events, scroll to the date, find the calendar, push a few more buttons, and you'll get to the page that way. So it's during this year's 2025 NAMM convention, which takes place technically from Wednesday till Saturday that week. So I guess that would be the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and 25th. For those people who are not in the industry, it is open to the public this year. They can go to the NAMM, N-A-M-M music. Just look up NAMM and it'll come up in your browser. And you can actually buy tickets to actually go to the NAMM convention this year, if you would like to do that. But the House of Blues Anaheim is a great place to come and have dinner, hang with your friends. There's several bars you can eat in. Their food's great. So as far as anything near the convention, that's already a really cool hang. But Ronnie Montrose Remembered will be there Friday the 24th, and we will be chugging along, man. We will be rocking hard.
Awesome. And people can find you on social media, right? They can find the Ronnie Montrose Remembered page.
Yes,
And
the Ronnie Montrose Remembered Facebook page is active, and my Instagram, Keith St. John. So you just start going to Instagram and start typing my name, Keith St. John, and you'll see it pop up pretty quick. I almost daily post up different plaques of who else is coming to play. So if you want to see some of the recently added or all the added singers, guitar players, drummers, bass players, keyboards, saxophone, flutes, what do I got? Cello, I got violin. We do some interesting pieces, that have a lot of instrumentation in them.
Very cool. That would be interesting to see. I'd like to see a cellist, Tina Guio, out there,
Well, we have Rick Brandt, who's played with the New York Phil, the LA Phil, and a lot of other reputable orchestras helping us out on the cello. And he's phenomenal.
Sounds great, man. Sounds great. And folks, find the Rock Music Alliance on social media and like our pages there too, where you can big us up. We're trying to gain all we can. So once again, Keith, thanks for being our guest today on the Rock Music Alliance.
Really appreciate doing the RMR on the RMA, and no pun intended. And I look forward to seeing you guys down at Ronnie Montrose Remembered, brother.
I'm Cole Coleman. And for Claudio Pesavento, the Rock Music Alliance, and the RMA Awards, thanks for watching and listening. Visit us at rockmusicalliance.com and check out this year's RMA Awards for rock, metal, and progressive rock music.